welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking into something I think everyone secretly kind of wonders about. You know, the idea that the universe might be like sending us hints about people we're meant to meet.
Yeah.
We got a whole bunch of your articles about those, quote, meant to be relationships.
Right.
And thankfully, we've got an expert to help us kind of go through it all.
I'm glad to be here. Yeah, it's true. I mean, this idea that fate might play a role in our relationships, I think is super intriguing. And there's just a lot we can kind of unpack here, both from, the psychological side of things and for just real life experience.
Okay, let's dive in. One thing that really stood out from the articles is this feeling of instantly recognizing someone like you've already known them before. People describe it as almost eerie.
Yeah.
Is that just our brains kind of messing with us, or could it be something more?
Well, our brains are really good at making connections, even when there aren't any. Sometimes a new person's voice, the way they move, even just the place where you meet them can trigger a sense of oh, this is familiar.
Okay.
It's I'll just call it déjà vu, right?
Yeah.
That feeling of I've been here before, even when you haven't.
Yeah.
It's wait a minute.
Yeah.
Have I done this?
So it's our brain is taking a shortcut, trying to fit this new person into a category that we already know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not that we're actually remembering a past life or anything, but our brain is just trying to make sense of this new information quickly.
Oh.
Now, that said, just because there's a psychological explanation doesn't mean there can't also be something deeper going on,
Yeah.
It's not always either.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, the articles also mention repeatedly running into the same person as a potential sign.
Right.
You see them at the grocery store, then at a concert, then your dog walker almost trips over their dog at the park.
Yeah.
How do we tell if that's meaningful coincidence or just life in a big city?
Right. Because we've all had those moments where we're whoa, hold on. Is the universe trying to tell me something?
Totally.
I think the key is to look for patterns,
Okay.
and pay attention to your gut feeling.
Okay.
Do these encounters keep happening in places where you really don't expect them? Or at times that feel significant?
Mm-hmm.
Do they trigger a really strong emotional response in you?
Okay.
I think those are all clues that it might be something more than just random chance. You know what I mean?
So if I keep seeing the same guy at my favorite coffee shop, but I'm pretty sure it's just because we both have a caffeine addiction, that's probably not a sign from the universe, right?
Probably not, no.
Okay.
But if that same guy shows up at a weekend workshop you just randomly decided to go to and you keep thinking about him even when you're not around him,
Okay.
that might be worth paying attention to.
Okay.
It's about the combination of repetition, right? That gut feeling
Yeah.
and the context of those encounters.
Okay, so let's say those repeated encounters are pointing to something deeper.
Okay.
The articles talk about soul language
Right.
and this effortless communication that just clicks.
Mm.
Is that just, really good chemistry, or is there something even more profound going on?
I think it's a bit of both, right? Chemistry is definitely part of it.
Yeah.
But to me, soul language kind of takes it a step further.
Okay.
It's about a deep resonance where you understand each other without needing to use a ton of words.
Yeah.
You get each other.
Yeah.
You pick up on each other's emotions. You have similar values, and even your body language kind of syncs up.
That's really beautiful.
It is.
But is that kind of intense connection always a good thing?
Well, it can be amazing.
Yeah.
But I think anything that's really powerful, it has its challenges,
Okay.
It's important to maintain your own sense of self within that connection.
Yeah. Complimenting each other is great, but completely losing yourself in the other person, I think that can lead to problems down the line.
So it's you can share a dance, but you don't have to become the same dancer.
Exactly. Each person brings their own unique steps and rhythm to the relationship, and, that's what makes it beautiful and allows both people to grow.
And speaking of growth, the articles emphasize that relationships that are meant to be will challenge us,
Yes.
not just make us comfortable.
Right.
Why is that so important, especially in these potentially fated connections?
Well, think about it. Life itself is all about growth and change, right?
Right?
And to me, the relationships that really matter are the ones that help us become better versions of ourselves. They push us outside of our comfort zones, they challenge our perspectives,
Yeah.
and they encourage us to evolve.
It's like those friends who are always honest with you, even when it's not easy to hear.
Yes.
They want the best for you, even if it means like a little tough love sometimes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like with working out, sometimes growth can feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You might experience resistance. You might even hit some roadblocks.
Yeah.
But ultimately, those challenges make you stronger
Yeah.
and more resilient.
I can definitely see how that applies to relationships too. But how do we know when a challenge is actually a sign that the relationship isn't right for us?
Right.
Like, when is it fighting for something that is worth it
Yeah.
versus holding on to something that's not serving us?
That's where that discernment comes in. It's about paying attention to how the relationship makes you feel deep down.
Okay.
Are you constantly feeling drained or like you're compromising your values? Or are the challenges leading to honest communication, deeper understanding, and growth for both of you?
So it's not just about like the challenges being there, but the kind of challenges, right?
Exactly.
And if they're actually moving the relationship in a positive direction.
I think that's a great way to put it. And even if a relationship ends, the lessons that you learn and the growth that you experience along the way can be so valuable.
Yeah.
They shape who you become, and they help you create healthier connections in the future.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's already giving me so much to think about.
It is fascinating.
One thing that really stood out to me from the articles is this idea of dreams as messages from the universe, especially like about relationships. Just what's going on psychologically when we dream about someone over and over again, especially someone we haven't even met yet.
Right.
Are we like seeing the future, or is it just our subconscious like working things out?
Dreams are fascinating, aren't they? They offer this window into our subconscious mind,
Yeah.
where our deepest fears and desires, and even those emotions that we might not be consciously aware of, they all kind of come to the surface.
Yeah.
When we dream about someone repeatedly, especially someone new, it could be our subconscious trying to process certain qualities or desires that we have. It's bringing those things to light.
So not necessarily predicting the future, but more like highlighting things we might be seeking in a relationship.
Right. Think of it this way. Our dreams often use symbols and metaphors to communicate with us.
Okay.
So dreaming about a specific person, it might not literally mean you're going to meet them.
Yeah.
But you might encounter someone who kind of embodies those same qualities or represents those same challenges that person represents in your dream.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not about taking our dreams literally, but paying attention to the themes and the feelings they bring up.
Yeah.
Like our subconscious is giving us clues about what we need to learn or what we might be ready for in our relationships.
It is. It's like a secret language,
Yeah.
It's all about learning to understand that language.
Yeah.
And recognize the messages that our dreams might be trying to tell us.
Cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, it's like our dreams are kind of giving us a sneak peek behind the curtain of our own minds. Showing us what we might be overlooking when we're awake.
That's such a cool way to put it. And now another concept that comes up a lot in these articles is divine timing.
Right.
The idea that we meet people exactly when we're meant to. It sounds so romantic.
It does.
But how much of that is real versus just like wishful thinking?
I think there's definitely something to it, but I don't think it's always about destiny in this like predetermined sense.
Okay.
It's more about our own readiness,
Yeah.
to receive certain lessons or connect with certain people.
So you could like cross paths with the same person at different points in your life.
Yes.
But the connection might only really click when you're both in the right place, like emotionally and mentally.
Exactly. We attract people into our lives when we're energetically aligned with what they have to teach us.
Okay.
Or what we need to learn from them. Sometimes we need to go through certain experiences, learn specific lessons, or even heal some old wounds before we're truly ready for a particular connection.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like sometimes the timing is off, even if the person is great.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes the timing is perfect, but we're the ones who aren't ready to see it.
Oh, okay. That's kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's a trip.
So how do we know when the timing is right? What are some signs that a connection is truly like meant to be?
Well, the articles talk about feeling a sense of peace as a strong indicator.
Okay.
Now, this doesn't mean the relationship will be totally conflict-free. I mean, that's just not realistic.
Right.
But there's a deeper sense of harmony and acceptance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about feeling comfortable with who that person is, even with their flaws.
Yeah.
And feeling seen and understood by them in return.
So it's not about like settling or ignoring red flags,
Right.
but about feeling genuinely at ease with that person and like the space they hold in your life.
Exactly. It's about feeling like you can be yourself, without judgment, and knowing that you're both committed to growing together.
That makes sense, yeah. Now, speaking of challenges, the articles also talk about the universe removing obstacles when a relationship is meant to be.
Right.
But how can we tell the difference between like fighting for something worthwhile and stubbornly clinging to something that's not serving us?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And honestly, discernment is key here.
Okay.
It's about paying attention to how the relationship affects you, like your overall well-being.
Okay.
Are you constantly feeling drained? Or like you're compromising your values to make it work?
Yeah.
Or are the challenges actually inspiring growth, communication, and deeper understanding between the two of you?
So it's about the nature of the challenges, right?
Yes.
And whether they're ultimately bringing you closer or pushing you apart.
Right. And I think when you're aligned with a relationship that is truly meant to be, things often flow more smoothly. It's not that there won't be any bumps in the road, but there's a sense of ease
Yeah.
and synchronicity, like the universe is kind of giving you a little nudge in the right direction.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like sometimes you can just feel when things are working out naturally
Yeah,
versus when you're forcing something that's not meant to be.
I totally agree.
And even if a relationship doesn't last forever, the challenges you face together can still be really valuable, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like they help you reflect on your patterns,
Yes.
your needs,
Mm.
and what you really want in a partner.
For sure, it's all part of the journey.
Yeah, it's like those challenges, even if they lead to an ending,
Right.
they're still part of our journey of understanding ourselves
Mm.
and what we're looking for.
Absolutely. And every relationship, romantic or platonic, can teach us something valuable about ourselves and how we connect,
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of learning and growth,
Okay.
one final point from the articles that really resonated with me is this idea of relationships having a healing power.
Interesting.
Can you talk a bit more about how certain connections can help us address past traumas or like unhealthy patterns?
I think relationships have this incredible ability to illuminate our deepest wounds and patterns,
Okay.
both the good and the bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we attract people into our lives who kind of mirror those wounds,
Okay.
triggering unresolved pain and bringing those patterns to the surface.
So it's like these relationships, even if they're difficult, are actually showing us what needs to be addressed within ourselves.
Exactly. It's not about blaming the other person for our wound,
Right.
but recognizing that the patterns that keep showing up in our relationships often have roots in our past.
Okay.
These challenging connections, they can actually be an invitation to do some inner work
Yeah.
and choose healing.
That's so powerful. But how can we tell if someone is triggering our wounds in a way that's ultimately harmful versus helping us heal?
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to how the relationship makes you feel,
Like overall,
Okay.
are you feeling empowered, supported, encouraged to grow?
Okay.
Or are you constantly feeling drained, diminished, or like you have to walk on eggshells?
So it's not about the absence of conflict, but more about the overall, energy
Yes.
and impact the relationship has on our lives.
Right. Healthy relationships, even the ones that push us out of our comfort zones, they ultimately make us feel more alive,
Yeah.
more connected to ourselves,
Yeah.
and more capable of giving and receiving love.
Okay.
If you're consistently feeling triggered, hurt, or unsafe,
Right.
that's a sign that this particular connection might not be serving your highest good,
Yeah.
even if there was a really strong initial attraction.
This has been so eye-opening, I used to think about those meant-to-be relationships as this magical thing.
Yeah.
But now I'm seeing how much it really is about us, our own growth and how aware we are.
It's true. It's not about giving up our power to fate or anything like that.
But it's more about understanding that we have a part to play,
Mm-hmm.
in shaping our relationships.
Yeah.
Like the universe might give us a little nudge here and there,
Yeah.
but we're the ones making the choices
Yeah.
ultimately.
As we've been talking, I keep thinking about those moments when you meet someone and it just feels right. Like all the pieces click into place.
Yeah.
Is that just like a feeling, or is there actually something more to it?
I think what's really interesting is that those moments where it just clicks,
Right.
they often reflect a deep resonance between your values, your aspirations, even your sense of purpose.
Okay.
Like when you encounter someone who lines up with those really core parts of you,
Yeah.
It can feel like, coming home.
It's like your souls recognize each other, even if your minds haven't quite caught up yet.
Exactly. And that recognition can be incredibly powerful,
Yeah.
even if the relationship doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The articles actually talk about how some connections leave this lasting mark on us, regardless of how long they're actually in our lives.
It's like some people are meant to teach us certain lessons or help us through certain phases, even if they're not in our story forever.
I love that. That's such a beautiful way to put it.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what's one key takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
I would say pay attention to the people who make you feel more alive, more connected to who you truly are,
Okay.
and more open to the world around you. Those are the connections that are really worth cherishing,
Yeah,
whether they last a lifetime or just a season.
that's really great advice.
It's not about finding the one.
Right.
It's about being present in the relationships that we already have
Yeah.
and learning from every connection that comes into our lives.
This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Of course, my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought as you navigate this incredible world of relationships.